So welcome back to Ask Confluent, when we answer Kafka questions from the internet. I'm your host, Gwen Shapira, this time here all alone, but next time not alone anymore. Let's jump right into some questions. Okay, so the first question is from Shruti Asser. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Shruti was reacting to the Level Up Your KSQL by Confluent. This was the video where I believe Tim Berglund explains the more advanced KSQL nooks and crannies. And Shruti asked, how do we create tables from nested JSON topic? Which is a great question because most JSON that you actually find in the real world would be nested. And you still want to be able to query them, and KSQL does give you a way to query the nested JSON. So if you get JSON from, say, Twitter, you have like a JSON, big JSON for the tweet, but then inside it some details about the users and details about the geography. So you want to be able to drill down into all of those. There is a great blog post by Robin Moffat from our team who explains exactly how to do it. So you basically create those structs, and when you create a table, you explain that we have the big JSON, inside it a struct, and the struct has those fields, and you can go as deep as you want. And then when you write a query, there is this syntax with an arrow. So you say, I want this field, arrow, next field, arrow, next field, to kind of drill down the struct. But again, kind of hearing me just talk about those things is not all that useful. So I'm going to have a link to the blog post where Robin shows you exactly how to create tables from nested JSON and also how to query them, which is arguably more interesting than just creating the table. You probably want to also do something with the table. Okay, next question is about quite an old Ask Confluent. So Ask Confluent number 3. I don't know if you guys remember, we had Tim Berglund here, we had Coeli from our support team, and we were kind of talking about a lot of the more painful issues that customers ran across, and we kind of asked Coeli to share some of her war stories with us. And we talked about how much of the pain upgrading to good versions of Kafka will solve for you. And Chinmaya S. Dora said that it's a nice discussion, which I agree. And he would like to share his view that retries, we recommended setting producers to do a lot of retries in order to guarantee durability. But he says if you set a very high retry value, it could disturb the ordering. Latency, as well as the ordering of the messages, could get messed up if the retries and in-flight message setting is high. So if you have 70 retries and you have a bunch of in-flight messages, things could kind of get in between. So you'd have a newer message get ahead of an older one because you keep retrying the older one. And in theory, yes, this could happen. It's not caused that much by the retries as much as by the fact that you could have a lot of in-flight messages at the same time. If you really, really care about ordering, you probably want to set the number of in-flight messages to 1 instead of the default of 5. But the thing to note is that there is the part where you really want the ordering guarantees, like this is super critical, and there's also the latency part. Like how critical, so you're trying to balance 3 things, right? You're trying to balance your ordering requirement, you are trying to balance latency, you want the system to be fast, and you're trying to balance reliability. Do you really care, how much do you care about the data actually arriving to Kafka? So if you set retries really, really high, it's usually because you really, really care about the data arriving to Kafka. Like maybe that's the most important thing for you. And for most of our customers, most of the users I talk to, this is the most important thing. The ordering is nice, latency is really, really nice, but we need the data in Kafka. That's why we recommend very high number of retries to guarantee that the data will show up in Kafka. But on the other hand, if latency is, obviously if you retry a lot of times, it increases latency, right? You keep retrying, so things take longer. If latency is more important for you, if you need everything to arrive within milliseconds, and if you cannot do it within milliseconds, you may as well toss the data away, you don't care about it anymore, then obviously less retries may be a better fit for you. And then obviously if ordering is the most important for you and you want to be 100% sure that the messages will arrive in the right order and you are willing to pay with worse latency, then you can set in-flight messages to 1. We'll just send one message, make sure it arrives, retry as often as possible. And then once it arrives, we'll send the next one. Obviously a lot slower than sending 5. And then once they start arriving, send another 5. So you kind of make your trade-offs and decisions. In order to make those decisions easier for you to express, that's very important, usually setting the number of retries is kind of difficult. A lot of people get it wrong because you don't think about reality doesn't work in number of retries. In reality, you have downtime, a broker is down. How long is it going to stay down, right? Is it going to be down for 5 minutes? How long until new leaders show up? Is it few seconds, few minutes, maybe few hours? What kind of downtime do you want to survive? So you're thinking in terms of time, and then you have to translate this time to number of retries. And for a lot of people, it's really hard. They get it wrong. They're like, 3 retries is enough. But with the default of 100 milliseconds between retries, it's just 300 milliseconds. What kind of incident are you going to resolve in 300 milliseconds, right? Unless you have very few partitions, not that many of them. So you need to think about how long of a downtime do I want to survive? And this is also how long of a delay do I want to have in sending data? And in KEEP 91, we actually added a much more intuitive way to configure the timeouts and retries and latencies, where you actually set a single number for what kind of delay you okay with when sending message to Kafka. And this includes the time it takes to connect, it includes the retries, it includes a lot of other things in it. So you actually, all you have to say is, this is my timeout, this is how long I'm willing to wait for a message to get written to Kafka, and everything else is accounted for. And if you have request timeouts and you have all those other timeouts, they kind of go into this big bucket. So worth reviewing KEEP 91 and the configurations that it adds to Kafka, and the fact that it changes the default number of retries to max int. So we actually do by default all the retries that will fit into this timeout configuration. And because it has a lot of impact on how you write your clients and how you configure them. So super, super important. Great question, Chinmaya S. Dora. The next question is from Brian Jones. And this was about the Kafka Summit 2018 keynote. I think it was back in London, where Martin Fowler and Toby Clemson did this really nice talk where they both went on stage talking about how they built this event-based system and how they tried different things. Brian Jones says that at minute 21 with 23 seconds, there were good tips on trade-offs associated with the different approaches to using Kafka. So I 100% agree with Brian Jones. It was good tips. I figured I'll give you a sneak preview here. So here's a screenshot from Kafka Summit London 2018 talk, where they actually show 3 different options of connecting a database to Kafka. They have something that involves Connect working directly with the database. They weren't super happy with it because what if the database changes? They had a transaction service writing directly to Kafka, which they weren't happy with because it makes Kafka the source of truth. They wanted the database to be a source of truth. I would say that I'm very happy making Kafka the source of truth, but obviously I'm very comfortable with Kafka in general. Not everyone is the same way. And then they had a third option, which uses a transaction service with Connect, which is quite unique. I haven't seen that before, and they were very happy with that option. My mind always goes into all the things that could go wrong with that option, but it's really nice to see this overview of the different possibilities, and you can choose which one works best for your use case. So highly recommended, Kafka Summit 2018 London. And since you're clearly a fan of Kafka Summit, don't forget that Kafka Summit San Francisco in 2019 is coming up with really, really good talks, including yours truly, including some of our team members, including things that are super exciting to the Kafka community, such as whether or not Kafka really needs Zookeeper. So don't forget to sign for Kafka Summit, and I'm looking forward to see you there. Next comment is by, there is absolutely no way I can pronounce this name because all I'm seeing is a Japanese character here. How's your Japanese, Peter?
I don't know.
Okay, we are at loss on how to pronounce this name, but the user icon has this really, really cute cat with wings, which is on one hand adorable, and on the other hand, if my cats had wings, the world would basically come to an end eventually. They cause enough destruction as is. Anyway, so this viewer commented on the Apache Kafka 2.3 video by Tim Berglund, which is absolutely my favorite video ever because it's in my favorite city ever, Tel Aviv. And this user commented, Kafka is just getting better and better. Thanks. Woohoo, we have to agree, Kafka is getting better and better. I have one suggestion that I will check out if I can make through keeps. That is the right way to make suggestions happen in Apache Kafka, have a keep. Myself and a lot of people on forums are demanding a more straightforward way of getting the values of the last offset of each partition. Sorry if it's asking too much. Many times it is required to know the last offset of a table topic or stream topic, and not all the values since the last commit. I hope someday this could be implemented with a single method. In the meantime, it is a pain in the beep. Yes, we kind of agree. We do want to know the last offset. It is kind of common. And really, when you go to somewhere like Stack Overflow and you look for answers, which is what every reasonable developer would do, right? Go to Stack Overflow and look for answers. You would basically get something like it is very complicated. You have to assign the topic, you have to stick to the end, and then you'll have to look over the position of the last offset. And not only is it really complicated, it is also kind of error-prone, right? Because it's 3 different steps, and nobody really guarantees anything would happen between those steps. You stick to the end, but then the end may have already changed. So clearly, if you just look at Stack Overflow, it looks like Kafka needs an improvement. But it turns out that sometimes Stack Overflow is wrong. And if you look to the Kafka Java docs, you will actually find the end offsets method, where you pass in a collection of all the partitions you're interested in. And what you get as a result is a map of each partition and the last offset in this topic. We have end offsets. We also have beginning offsets if you're curious about them. So you do have one call that will get you exactly what you need. And it's documented. If you do read uncommitted, you get a high watermark. If you have transactions and you do read committed, then you actually get the last stable offset, the last point where transactions were committed. Really, really useful, much more useful than doing the 3-step thing. And this has actually been in Kafka for very, very long time. I went back in time to find where it was added. It was added by Jiang Ji, who has since left the Kafka community, and we really, really miss him. And he added, I think it was like keep 76 or something along those lines, where he added the seek by offset, and he added those 2 methods. So we're talking about 0, 10, 1. So it's been in Kafka for years. I'm really sorry that everyone somehow missed it. And it is documented. It is right there in the Java docs. So I just saved you keep, go use end offsets, or go back to us and tell us why it's not good enough and we still need an improvement. Looking forward for your keep. Okay, another question. Rick Free listened to an amazing talk. Jun Rao gave one of his very rare talks, a deep dive into the Kafka controller. It was part of the Bay Area Apache Kafka meetup. So maybe some of you have even been there in person. And Rick Free was not there in person, but he said, very helpful video. Zombie requests have bothered me for a while. I have determined to upgrade to 2.2 in these days. So yeah, nobody likes zombies. We don't like zombies. We recently had a few zombies around, and it's kind of difficult to get rid of them after they happen. So you really need to keep them out. And the correct way to keep them out is with a really good fence. So I picked this slide out of Jun Rao's presentation, where he explains how we get progressively better fencing to prevent zombie requests from controllers. And we have two cases. You could have zombie controllers where the zombie actually the controller already expired, but the controller doesn't know that it expired yet. And we handled that in 1.1, and then we made it even better in 2.1, where we prevent the zombie controller from accidentally writing to Zookeeper and causing complete chaos through your entire cluster. That's what zombies do, by the way. They kind of write incorrect information because they don't know what's up, and they cause chaos. And then there is an even more subtle issue where the controller is actually okay, but due to a broker restart, the controller may talk to the wrong broker. So it sent a message to the broker. The broker did not get a message yet. The broker got restarted, and now the new broker, after the restart, gets an outdated message. So we've also added broker epoch to fence against those zombie requests. So we have zombie controllers, we have zombie requests, and we keep building better and better fences by adding epochs to prevent them from happening. And it's really exciting, and I hope all of you go back and watch the video from Jun Rao, because the controller is so important to how Kafka works, and so few people understand it, and this deep dive is really, really amazing. Okay, we got to the really good part of the as Confluent, where we get to pat ourselves in the back and say how awesome we are. Confluent Platform 5.3, what's new in this release, by obviously Tim Berglund. Andrew Leslie said, great video team, but I can't help thinking the intro and outro music is some kind of an in-joke. So I listened to the intro and outro about 5 times last night, trying to figure it out. First of all, the intro and outro both involve Tim sitting in front of a stream. The stream is clearly the in-joke. We are all about streams, and Tim found a stream to film this video in, which was cool. So apparently the music that is kind of banjo country-ish is supposed to conjure feelings of sitting by a stream in nature, in a rural setting, where streams are incredibly relaxing. Unlike streams of events about our business, which are not as relaxing as we would like them to be. But the video is quite amazing, and everyone should really watch it. And more testimonials. This video is absolutely amazing. Chuck Leroy Cassias said, another great video by Tim. And Machindra Nail said, I came here just to hear Tim. I wish to have such presentation skills. Machindra, we really all do. Some of us work pretty hard every day to try to be as awesome as Tim is. He's setting the bar high for all of us. But thank you very much for all your compliments. Okay, comments on Nihar Narkede's Kafka Summit 2017 keynote, going against the flow, doing databases and stream processing. That was when we announced KSQL 2 years ago. So time definitely flies by. Vishwas Bhushan said, another good content from you. Thank you. And we all have to agree. But you know, Vishwas, you really should see her latest things. We have 2019 keynotes. We have keynotes from Spring Conference. We have really, really great keynotes and presentations by Neha. You don't just have to stop at the one from 2017. Jessic Laskowski, who is really a friend of the Kafka community, he's been active in the mailing lists on Twitter, he's been doing his own presentations. He listened to Event Streaming Platform Explained by Jay Krebs, and he said, very good and comprehensive presentation, Jay. You know how to talk about it to CXOs, which I agree, this is great content. If you're trying to convince your CTO or CIO that you really need to use Kafka and build an event streaming centric architecture, this is amazing, because sometimes for us as engineers, it's really, really hard to talk in terms of the business value and business ideas. We just think it's cool technology, it makes my life easier, I can write code faster maybe, and that's part of the value. But there is like bigger story of what it does to a business, how it can transform an entire business. And this is really the story your CTO and CIO have to hear, and it works better if they hear it from Jay. So highly recommended to use it in case of need. Jessic also said, I thought I missed Kafka streams next to KSQL until I realized that it is this stream brick down the stack. Makes sense, but can easily be overlooked. So I'm guessing we're getting some criticism of how exactly the content was presented. But remember that Jessic and I, as engineers who really care about the components, what's KSQL and what's Kafka streams, we're not the audience. And your CTO probably doesn't care exactly about the difference between KSQL and Kafka streams. That's the whole point. They think about the bigger picture. So we get different content than your CXO, and I think both of us have place in the world. Okay, that's all we have for today. I think it was really fun, and thanks for joining us again. Really good questions from the community, and really thank you all for the great feedback. You don't know how important it is for us to hear that we're doing a good job and you guys are listening and learning and kind of getting the content and thinking of new ideas on how to contribute to the Kafka community through our interactions. So thank you very, very much.